इस वीडियो में हम द हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर का एडिटोरियल आपको रीड करके दिखाएंगे, जिससे आप कहीं पे भी होंगे उसको ऑडियो को सुन सकते हैं और अपने इंग्लिश को इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं। चलो आज का एडिटोरियल देखते हैं। आज दिसंबर है 19। ओके एंड चलो एक एडिटोरियल पढ़ते हैं जिसका हेडिंग है फॉर एन ऑनेस्ट ब्रोकर ऑन रशिया एंड इंडिया चाइना टाइज। ओके, any offer from Russia to play the facilitator in talks with China must be scrutinized closely. Days after meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi, Russian President Vladimir Putin held a summit via video conference with Chinese President Xi Jinping. While the two meetings may have focused on bilateral issues, the conversation appeared to have overlapped in unusual ways. According to a senior Kremlin official, after discussing with Mr. Modi India's problem with Chinese aggression, which were raised publicly during the visit by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, Mr. Putin briefed Mr. Xi on his talks in Delhi. The officer then indicated that a trilateral summit of the leaders of Russia, India, and China (RIC) could be held in near future, which would pick up on the Modi-Putin-G conversation during an RIC summit on the sidelines of the Osaka G20 summit in 2019. However, much has occurred between the summit and today. China's aggression at the line of actual control has dented hopes of peaceful coexistence and growth between the neighbors that had been outlined during the RIC as well as the Modi-Ji Mablapuram summit when the leaders had last met face-to-face upright since 2020. The two leaders have not spoken directly once, and while they have attended the same multilateral summits, BRICS, SCO, G20, etc., it would be hard to see them engaging in a face-to-face format unless the situation at the LAC considerably eases. In addition, the RIC summit should not be held before promises made by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in meetings with External Affairs Ministers S. Jaishankar are fulfilled. While India and Russia defense and bilateral ties have considerably strengthened, especially after the Modi government's decision to go ahead with its purchase of the S-400 missile defense system despite the US threat of sanctions. New Delhi must treat cautiously in its trilateral and multilateral cooperation with Moscow, and any hint that Russia could play a facilitator of talks with China must be scrutinized closely. Russia and China have consolidated their support for each other in the face of US concerns over Russian action against Ukraine and Chinese action on Taiwan. Russia is also deeply dependent on Chinese investment, particularly in the 30 years. $400 billion gas pipeline on Afghanistan. Russia has shown that it was prepared to cut India out of negotiations held by the Tokyo Plus group with the US, China, and Pakistan. Any expectation that Mr. Putin could play honest poker, Mr. Modi and Mr. Xi must take these factors into account, while India must continue to walk the tightrope between Moscow and Washington and its partner in Eurasia versus those in the Indo-Pacific. It needs to disentangle these threats from the very potent threat it faces directly and bilaterally from its northern neighbor, where it has little choice but to follow an independent path. Thank you.